At the edge of a cliff, I encountered the severely injured Prince Jing, Shaolin Yuan. In my past life, I saved him, only to be tormented by his white moonlight for 3 years, then killed with a bowl of poison. He grant her a posthumous title of concubine. Consider it fulfilling her devotion. This life, I weighed the jade pendant he handed over. The quality was really nice. Then I picked up a rock. 1 blow, 2 blows, 3 blows. I stood at the edge of the cliff holding my medicine basket, looking at the man on the ground covered in blood. Prince Jing, Shaolin Yuan. In my past life, I saved him. He took me as a concubine and brought me into the prince's manor. I was tormented in the manor for 3 years, and finally sent off by his white moonlight with a bowl of poison. Before I died, I heard him say, grant her a posthumous title of concubine. Consider it fulfilling her devotion. Fulfill your ancestors, my ass. This life, I looked at that handsome face and smiled gently. He struggled to open his eyes and handed over a jade pendant. Save me. I am Prince Jing. I will reward you handsomely. I took the jade pendant, weighed it. The quality was really nice. Then I crouched down and gently wiped the blood from his face with my sleeve. Your Highness. My voice was soft. Do you know who I am? Hope kindled in his eyes. If you could save me, miss. My name is Lin Chuyu. I smiled even more gently. Remember, the one who kills you is Lin Chuyu. His pupils contracted sharply. I grabbed the rock beside me and smashed it down hard. The first blow smashed onto his forehead. This is payback for taking me as a concubine, yet treating me with contempt. The second blow smashed onto the bridge of his nose. This is payback for indulging Yi Shuar in harming me. The third blow aimed at the temple. This is payback for the life you owed me in our past life. Only when his face was smashed beyond recognition did I stop. I wiped the blood that had splattered on my face and tucked the jade pendant into my chest. The sound of horse hooves came from afar. Shaolin Yuan's shadow guards had arrived. I quickly adjusted my expression, threw myself onto the corpse and wailed loudly. Your Highness, how could you leave me all alone? In the morning hall of Prince Jing's manor, white banners fluttered. Dressed in plain white, I knelt beside the ice coffin, crying my heart out. Your Highness, you said you would take me to Jiangnan to see the apricot blossoms. You said you would teach me to write. Now that you are gone, how am I supposed to live all alone? The royal elders who came to offer condolences all sighed. Princess consort and wiped her tears and said, this young lady truly has deep affection for Prince Jing. I raised my tearful eyes and choked out. This commoner girl asks not for a title, only to keep vigil for His Highness in the manor for the rest of my life. I gazed at the white banners. Scenes from the morning hall in my past life flashed before my eyes. However, back then, the one lying in the coffin was my child. My baby, who had accidentally miscarried before even 3 months. I had cried until I fainted beside the coffin. Yet Yeshua was dressed in magnificent attire, leaning against Shaolin Yuan's side. The voice was neither too loud nor too soft, just enough for me to hear. Cousin, concubine Lin is being so inconsiderate. She couldn't keep the prince's child due to her own lack of fortune. Yet here she is wailing like at a funeral, needlessly troubling you. And Shaolin Yuan merely furrowed his brow and instructed the servants. Help her back to her room. Don't let her make a scene here. He didn't even spare a glance at me or my dead child. As she brushed past me, she leaned close to my ear and laughed softly. You think cousin actually cares about you? He finds you stupid and an eyesore. You and your ill, fated child are both things that shouldn't exist. Now, it was my turn to sit in his morning hall. Before I could finish speaking, a shrill female voice pierced through the air. What a display of deep affection and loyalty. Aunt, you've all been deceived by this wicked woman. Yeshua burst into the morning hall with 2 concubines, pointing right at my face. I grew up with cousin since childhood. If he had a woman he fancied, how could he not let me know? This woman's background is unknown. Who knows whose bastard she is carrying in her belly? The whole hall erupted in uproar. Yishur had always been domineering in the prince's manor. In my past life, Xiao Jingyuan had doted on her immensely, but Yishur, putting on airs, felt there were too many women around him. She didn't want to share a husband with others. So she stayed in the prince's manor in this ambiguous state, without any title, yet living like the princess consort. The day I entered Prince Jing's residence, I sat in a small sedan chair draped with dark cloth, carried in silently through the side gate. When I lifted the sedan curtain, Yishur was standing at the entrance. She wore a pink Ruquan dress with a moon, white gauze coat over it, a gold Biao hairpin in her bun, dazzling enough to make one's eyes spin in the sunlight. I looked down at myself, coarse cloth clothes, washed until faded, with herbal stains still on the cuffs. Oh my, so this is the one the prince picked up from the mountains. Yishuer's voice was crisp, carrying undisguised mockery. I stepped off the sedan and bowed properly. This commoner Lin Chuya greets. No need. She cut me off, covering her nose with a silk handkerchief while looking me up and down. Indeed, you reek of the wilderness. The maids and servants beside her snickered, and I could only grip the hem of my clothes, wishing the ground would swallow me up. This time I raised my head and met her eyes. Miss Yi. I rose mournfully, stumbling a step due to excessive grief. Why must you slander me like this? If I had wanted to climb the social ladder, why would I have waited until today? With trembling hands, I pulled out that jade pendant from my bosom. This jade pendant was personally given to me by the prince. He said, "This is a keepsake from his late mother, the imperial consort," and told me to keep it safe. The moment the jade pendant appeared, the entire hall was shocked. The jade pendant of Consort T. Prince Jing's birth mother. All the elders of the royal clan recognized it. Yishuer's face turned pale, yet she still forced herself to say, "You must have stolen it, or picked it up." Picked it up, I smiled bitterly. The Lord has a burn scar on his back, from spilling hot medicine as a child. On the inner side of the Lord's right leg, there is a blue birthmark, shaped like a maple leaf. I cried until my whole body trembled. Such private matters. If the prince hadn't told me himself, how could I possibly know? I don't ask for a title, I only wish to stay by his side. Then I touched my belly, my gaze resolute, and rose to throw myself at the coffin. If this young lady insists on slandering me, then I'll take the child and follow the prince in death. Princess and hurriedly brought people to stop me. She turned and glared angrily at Yishuer. "Sure, Prince Jing's body isn't even cold yet, and you are causing a scene here. What kind of behavior is this?" Yishuer wanted to argue further, but the Grand Dowager Consort who had been silent all along finally spoke. Ino. The Grand Dowager Consort was Xiao Linyuan's grandmother, the most esteemed person in the manor. She leaned on her cane, slowly walked up to me, and examined me carefully. "You say you are pregnant?" I nodded with tears in my eyes. "It has already been 2 months. Is it the prince's flesh and blood?" The Grand Dowager Consort's gaze was piercing. I answered without hesitation, "Yes." On the 16th of the 12th month, the prince went hunting at the western mountains, encountered heavy snow that sealed the mountain, got separated from his guards, and was rescued by me. Half a month later, the sky cleared. Before the prince left, he gave me a jade pendant and told me to wait for him to come get me. So I waited every day until I discovered I was with child. I planned to go to the capital to find the prince, but on the way, I covered my face and wept. Shaolinyuan did encounter heavy snow that blocked the mountain on the 16th of the 12th month, but he never met me. It was only later, after I entered the prince's manor, that he told me before me he had been rescued by a peasant girl during a hunt. He had wanted to bring her back to the manor too, but unfortunately she was already betrothed, so he could only give up with regret. Very well, the Dowager Consort made the final decision. From today on, Miss Lin will reside in Yimei Garden. All expenses will follow the standards of a secondary consort. Once the child is born, We'll conduct a blood test to verify parentage. If it is of Shao family blood, she'll be made the principal consort. If not, the dowager consort glanced at me. You know the consequences. I prostrated myself and kowtowed. This commoner obeys. When I looked up, I met Yeshua's venomous gaze head on. I lowered my eyes, the corner of my lips curving slightly. The real show has only just begun. Yaimei Garden was indeed exquisite, 3 courtyards deep, with pavilions and towers, and 12 maids and servants to attend to me. But I knew that among these 12, at least 5 were Yeshua's spies. In my previous life, I died at their hands, but I don't have time to deal with them now. I have more important things to do. Chungsing, go find out which lady in the palace has a birthday coming up. I gave orders to that most restless maidservant. Chungsing froze. What is Miss asking about this for? I want to copy some sutras to pray for blessings. I kept my expression unchanged. I heard the ladies in the palace are all people of deep fortune. If we could get even a bit of their favor, it would be good for the child. Chungsing left, half believing and half doubting. I sat by the window, my mind racing with calculations. In my past life, during those 3 years of suffering in the prince's manor, though I lived miserably, I still heard quite a bit of news, especially about that noble Lady Zhou in the palace. By then, I had already fallen out of favor and was driven to the most remote courtyard. In winter, there wasn't enough charcoal, so I could only go help in the kitchen in exchange for some hot food. It was there that I overheard a few steward nannies chatting. Have you heard? That noble Lady Zhou by the cold palace? A few days ago, she sent His Majesty a bowl of lotus seed soup. His Majesty tasted it, and that very night, he summoned her to attend his bed. Really, noble Lady Zhou has been in the palace for 5 years now, never once favored. Absolutely true. My niece works in the imperial kitchen. She saw it with her own eyes. Now she is finally going to turn her fortunes around. More than just turning around. I heard noble Lady Zhou is already with child, and His Majesty was so pleased, he directly promoted her to consort. Latter, noble Lady Zhou indeed rose steadily all the way up. In the spring of the year I died, I heard she had already been made imperial consort, the most favored in the entire harem. This life, I need to get in with her before she gains favor. Chungsing came back quickly. Miss, I've asked around. The 6th of next month is Consort Zhou's birthday. I nodded. Got it. Consort Zhou, currently the most inconspicuous consort in the palace. Living in the most remote palace, even her monthly allowance was often withheld. This was the perfect time to offer help when it is needed most. 3 days later, I found an excuse to leave the manor. I said I was going to the temple to pray for the child, but actually took a detour to the most famous silver shop in the capital. Wrap up this hairpin and this pair of earrings. I pointed at the simplest yet most finely crafted pieces of jewelry in the display case. The shopkeeper glanced at my attire. Miss, although these pieces are simple in style, the materials are genuine, and the price isn't cheap. I took out the banknotes, all pilfered from Shaolin Yuan. Might as well spend them. Wrap them nicely. They're a gift. After leaving the silver shop, I went to the silk store and picked out several bolts of fabric in elegant colors, but excellent quality. Finally, I had the coachman stop at a secluded alley. Miss, nobody lives here. The coachman was puzzled. Wait here. I carried my things and knocked on the door of the house at the very end of the alley. The one who opened the door was a eunuch, surnamed Feng. I met him on a winter night in my 2nd year at the prince's manor. That night, Yeshua punished me by making me kneel in the snow, and I nearly froze to death. Although Consort Zhou wasn't favored. Her maiden family had some distant relation to the old consort of Prince Jing's manor. During the new year, she would always send him to deliver some needlework and token gifts. He hurried past with his head bowed, holding a gift box, but tripped in the corridor and the box scattered open. He was scolded and beaten by the head matron. I secretly slipped him a packet of medicine for wounds and a few pieces of broken silver. He clutched the silver and looked at me for a long time, then said in a hoarse voice, "Miss Fengli will remember your kindness today." Later, when consort Zhou gained favor, his status rose along with hers, and he even had someone send me a packet of silver, though by then, I no longer needed it. "Eunuch Feng," I handed over the items. "Please deliver these to consort Zhou." Eunuch Feng looked at me warily. "And you are?" "Summonon from Prince Jing's residence." I lowered my voice. "The consort is in a difficult situation now. These are a small token from my mistress. We ask nothing in return, only to form a good connection." He took the items and weighed them in his hand, hearing the clink of silver, and his expression softened somewhat. "Your mistress is a concubine of Prince Jing, currently with child," I said frankly. "In the future, when the child is born, if a noble lady could look after them a little, it would be the greatest blessing." Eunuch Feng sized me up for a moment, then nodded. "I'll deliver the items and pass on the message, but whether the consort will appreciate it, I can't say." "Eunuch, you need only tell the consort this. On the 18th of the 12th month, do not go to the plum grove at the west corner of the Imperial Garden. It is freezing cold, hardly a sight worth seeing." Eunuch Feng was taken aback. "What do you mean by that?" "Just tell me as it is." I curtsied. "The noble consort will understand." The 18th of the 12th lunar month was the turning point of noble consort Zhou's fate in her previous life. That day she had schemed to encounter the emperor in the plum grove. She had intended to dance to win his favor, but ended up shivering from the cold due to her thin clothing. The emperor despised her poor composure, and she fell even further out of favor. It took 3 more months before she found the chance to deliver that bowl of lotus seed soup. I was going to make this opportunity come 3 months earlier. On the way back to the manor, I was planning my next move. The seed had already been planted with noble consort Zhou. Next was the inside of the prince's manor. Yeshuer was confined for 3 months, the perfect time for me to win people over. The next day, I took the initiative to visit concubine Li's courtyard. "How have you been lately, Sister Li?" I smiled and had the maid present the brocade box. "This is the ginseng that the dowager consort had someone send to my courtyard. I brought it for sister to nourish your health." Concubine Li looked wary. "Sister Zhang, just say what you want directly." "I want to make a deal with you, sister." I sat down. "Sister helps me with something, and I help sister's father get through his current troubles." Her expression changed. "What do you mean?" I looked at her. It was the winter of my 2nd year in the manor. I had caught a cold and was coughing terribly. Shaolin Yuan found me annoying and had me move to the most remote courtyard to recuperate. That night, I was feverish and dazed, and heard 2 old servants gossiping outside my window. "Did you hear? Concubine Li's father got into trouble. The Ministry of War found issues with that batch of military equipment from 3 years ago. The bows and arrows Lord Li handled. The numbers don't add up. More than just not adding up. I heard half of them were defective, snapping with one pull. He is done for now, at best exile, at worst beheading." Those words stabbed into my hazy consciousness like knives. Latter, concubine Li's father indeed fell from grace, and she too lost her standing in the manor. The Ministry of War is investigating the military equipment case from 3 years ago. I lowered my voice. "That batch of bows and arrows Lord Li handled back then, the numbers don't seem to add up, do they?" Concubine Li's hand trembled, nearly dropping her teacup. How do you know?" "I naturally have my own sources." I kept my expression unchanged. "Before the prince passed away, he mentioned this matter to someone. He said, if this gets exposed, at best exile, at worst." I made a throat-slitting gesture. Her face turned pale as paper, even her fingertips trembling. What do you want, Simple?" I pushed a piece of paper toward her. "On this are the names of several distinguished guests' concubine Liu served when she was in Yangzhou. Among them is the clan cousin of the current left censor, in chief of the censorate." I want you to accidentally let concubine Liu know that Yishuer also has this list. Concubine Li's eyes lit up, sowing discord, just helping each other out. I stood up. After it is done, I'll tell you, sister, a way to make amends for your past. She stared at me for a long time, finally gritting her teeth. Fine. 7 days later, concubine Liu indeed came to find me on her own. Has Sister Jiang been well lately? Her smile was forced. I recently got some premium bloodbird's nest, and thinking that you are pregnant, I specially brought it over. I invited her to sit. Sister Liu is too kind. She hesitated for a moment, lowering her voice. Sister, do you know what Yishuer has been investigating lately? Investigating what? Investigating the past of people like us. Concubine Liu's eyes reddened. Back then in Yangzhou, I had no choice. In her previous life, concubine Liu was caught by Yishuer with evidence that she had served Censor Zhou's clan brother in Yangzhou. At that time, Shaolin Yuan happened to be impeached at court, and he assumed concubine Liu was the one passing information. After that, concubine Liu was completely abandoned, sent to a rural estate, her fate unknown. If she threatens you, we can naturally strike first. I looked at concubine Liu. As long as sister is willing to help me. Concubine Liu looked up. How do I help? First, keep an eye on the movements in Yishuer's courtyard. Second, 10 days from now is the Grand Consort's birthday. I need sister to bring something up publicly at the banquet. The prince once said while he was alive that if anything happened to him, he hoped Miss Yi could return to the Shen residence to serve her parents, and not waste her youth in the prince's manor. Concubine Liu was startled. The prince never said that. He did. I smiled. On the night of the 16th of the 12th month, he told me personally. Concubine Liu hesitated for a long time, finally nodding. On the day of the old consort's birthday, the prince's manor was exceptionally lively. Midway through the banquet, concubine Liu rose to offer a toast as planned. Old consort, I recalled something the prince said before he passed, and my heart aches. The prince said, if anything were to happen to him, the one he'd worry about most was Miss Yi. He said Miss Yi is no longer young. She shouldn't waste her years in the prince's manor. She should go back and find a good family to marry into. The entire hall fell silent. Everyone in the capital knew about Yishuer's situation, a perfectly fine, legitimate daughter of the Yi family. Yet she insisted on coming to the prince's manor without any title or status. She acted like the princess consort in daily affairs, so naturally there was no shortage of people gossiping about her behind her back. Now that Prince Jing was dead, her situation had become awkward. Yishuer's face turned ashen as she abruptly stood up. You are spouting nonsense, the old consort frowned. I spoke up at the right moment. Old consort. The prince did mention to this commoner that Miss Yi had wasted many years for him, and he felt guilty about it. Yishuer screamed, Lin Chuyu, you and this slut are conspiring against me. Enough, the old consort slammed the table heavily. Shuer, you've lost your composure today. After being reprimanded, Yishuer went back to her room and smashed everything she could. The news reached the old consort's ears. After that, the old consort's attitude toward her became noticeably colder. Yishuer, you could lord over everyone in the prince's manor because Shaolin Yuan was here. Now that he is dead, your good days should be coming to an end. Another half-month passed, and on the 18th of the 12th lunar month, news came from the palace. Noble Lady Zhou happened to encounter the emperor in the imperial garden, offered a pipa performance. The emperor was entranced and summoned her to attend his bed that very night. The next day, she was promoted to consort Zhou. When the news reached the prince's residence, I was copying sutras for the old consort dowager. This consort Zhou sure has good luck, the old consort dowager remarked casually. I lowered my eyes. Indeed, I heard consort Zhou is gentle and virtuous, a rare kind-hearted person. You seem to know quite a lot. This commoner only heard it from others, I said softly. Consort Zhou is after all serving before His Majesty. If we maintain good relations, it would be beneficial for the residents too. The Grand Prince's residence looked glamorous, but in the previous dynasty a regent had controlled the court. So the current emperor was wary as well. No princes would be entrusted with important positions, having titles but no real power. The old consort dowager glanced at me and said nothing. A few more days passed. I had concubine Lai take an account book of Yi Shuer embezzling income from the residence's estates. Accidentally dropped it in front of a nanny in the old consort dowager's courtyard. That account book was forged by me based on memories from my past life. In my past life, when Yi Shuer managed the household, she didn't hide these things at all. The nanny indeed presented the account book to the old consort dowager. After the old consort dowager finished reading, she was silent for a long time. The next day, Yi Shuer was summoned to the Buddhist hall, came out with red swollen eyes, and her household tallies were completely confiscated. That evening, I caught a young servant boy who had secretly climbed over the wall into my yard. A packet of arsenic was found on him. I took that packet of arsenic and went straight to the old consort's courtyard, kneeling there for the entire night. Old consort, this commoner knows Miss Yi hates me, but if she wants my life, I'll give it to her. The old consort looked at that packet of arsenic, her hands trembling. She turned and ordered, "Go, lock Yi Shuer in the ancestral hall. Without my command, no one is allowed to let her out." I lowered my eyes. As expected, it still wasn't quite enough. After all, Yi Shuer had stayed in the prince's manor for so long. The old consort still had feelings for her. When Yi Shuer was dragged away, she glared at me with all her might, her voice hoarse. "Lin Chuyu, you'll get what is coming to you." I watched her like this, not a ripple in my heart. In my past life, when I knelt before her begging her to spare my child, she had looked at me the same way. She said, "If you want to blame someone, blame yourself for getting in my way. This life, the road's gotten narrow. No room for you anymore." The second day after Yi Shuer was locked in the ancestral hall, I began clearing out her spies. Among these 12 people, who were her confidants, who were coerced, who were just watching, I had long figured it all out. Chunxing. I called her over. "Yesterday at the back gate, who did you meet?" Chunxing's face went pale. "Miss, what is Miss saying? This servant doesn't understand." I tossed out a slip of paper. On it was the secret letter she had passed to the Yi family's steward. I had concubine Liu intercept it. "Miss Yi has already been locked in the ancestral hall. Yet you still dare to pass messages outside," I said coldly. "You think I am easy to push around? Please spare me, miss." Chunxing dropped to her knees with a thud. It was Miss Yi who forced you." I laughed. "When Miss Yi arranged a job for your brother, why didn't you say she forced you then?" She crumpled weakly to the ground. "Drag her out, give her 20 strikes, and sell her off." I ordered the servants, "Sell her far away. Don't let her be an eyesore in the capital." Chunxing's wailing soon faded into the distance. The remaining maids and servants knelt all over the floor, trembling. "Shahi," I called out. Shahi shuddered all over. "What did you send to the ancestral hall yesterday?" This servant only delivered food. Delivering food requires hiding notes in the food box's hidden compartment? I stared at her. "Do you take me for blind?" Shahi kowtowed frantically. "Please spare me, miss. This servant will never dare again. Considering this is your first offense, I'll dock 3 months' wages and transfer you to the laundry room." "Thank you for your mercy, miss." I called out names one by one. Chuju, punished by being sent to the manor, Dongmei, banished to the most remote farmstead. In less than half a day, all 5 spies were cleaned out completely. The remaining maids and old servants knelt before me, not daring to breathe loudly. From now on, Yimei Garden has only one rule. I swept my gaze over them: loyalty. Those loyal to me, I will naturally not mistreat. Those with divided loyalties, I paused. Chunxing is the example. This servant wouldn't dare. I waved my hand to dismiss them. Concubine Liu watched from the side, her heart trembling. Sister, such impressive tactics. Without ruthlessness, one can't survive, I said calmly. If sister is afraid, it is not too late to back out now. She gritted her teeth. I'll follow sister. After clearing out the spies, my days in the manor finally became truly peaceful. But I didn't stay idle. When I was 7 months pregnant, the palace held a viewing banquet. The old princess consort brought me into the palace. Just as I sat down at the banquet, I heard a mocking remark. So this is the pregnant girl from Prince Jing's manor. I heard she is from peasant origins. All the noblewomen at the table covered their mouths and giggled. I looked at the speaker. Yeshua's aunt, Princess Consort Kang. In my previous life, Yeshua lorded over everyone, among the concubines she fought against. Some died and some were crippled. She certainly had her aunt here to thank for that. Princess Consort Kang was indeed making trouble. Just as I was about to speak, a soft voice rang out. Princess Consort Kang's words are mistaken. Everyone turned their heads, only to see a woman in light cyan palace attire gracefully approaching. It was Consort Zhou. Although Miss Lin comes from humble origins, she is well-read and sensible. What is even more precious is her devoted love for Prince Jing, willingly remaining chaste and raising his orphan for him. Consort Zhou's voice was gentle, yet every word was clear. Such chastity and virtue, even noble ladies may not possess it. Everyone was stunned. Princess Consort Kang's expression turned ugly. Consort Zhou certainly knows her well. This consort has had the fortune of meeting Miss Lin once. Consort Zhou smiled. She turned to the Empress. Your Majesty, this consort believes such a chaste and virtuous woman deserves commendation. The Empress glanced at me thoughtfully and nodded. Consort Zhou is right. A woman's worth lies in her virtue, not her origins. Princess Consort Kang's face turned green, but she dared not speak further. The Grand Princess Consort glanced at me in surprise. In the carriage back to the residence, she asked, "When did you start having dealings with Consort Zhou?" This commoner happened to meet her while praying at the temple. I kept my eyes lowered submissively. Consort Zhou is kind-hearted. Seeing this commoner was pregnant, she asked a few more questions. The Grand Princess Consort stared at me for a long while, and finally only said, "You know your boundaries." I knew it. The connection with Consort Zhou was secured. Another month passed, and Consort Zhou was found to be pregnant. Promoted to Imperial Consort Zhou, she had someone deliver a pair of jade bracelets to me. I had concubine Liu send back a generous gift, along with a letter. The letter had only 4 words: beware of those around you. In my past life, a trusted palace servant by Imperial Consort Zhou's side had tampered with her food, clothing, and daily necessities, nearly causing her to hemorrhage during childbirth. Though she gave birth to a prince, she could never conceive again afterward. A few days later, Imperial Consort Zhou had someone deliver several bolts of brocade only available in the palace. It seemed the problem was resolved. Through these exchanges, this connection was firmly established, and I gained status in the prince's manor. In my 8th month of pregnancy, I had concubine Liu discover that Yeshua was secretly passing letters out from the ancestral hall. The letter was for Princess Consort Kang, asking her to sabotage my delivery, killing 2 with 1 stroke. Concubine Liu made a copy of the letter for me. I took the copy and went to find the Dowager Princess. After reading the letter, the Dowager Princess was trembling with rage. To the ancestral hall. In the ancestral hall, Yeshua was caught red-handed. "Aunt, let me explain." "Shut up." The Dowager Princess slapped her across the face. "Go send word to the Yi family. Tell them to come pick her up tomorrow." Yeshua collapsed to the ground, her face ashen. The day after Yeshua was sent back to the Yi family, the news spread throughout the capital. It was quite lively for a while, and some people even came to the door specifically to mock. A few days later, news came that Yeshua had thrown herself into a well. The Yi family wanted to make a fuss, but they were suppressed by the evidence of Yeshua's crimes that I had delivered to the old consort in advance. Yeshua's father, Minister Yi, was impeached by the censors and was too busy saving himself. Yeshua's death didn't cause the slightest ripple. In the 9th month, I gave birth, the night of labor. I was in so much pain I nearly passed out, yet my mind was unusually clear. In my past life, I was in the same pain, and in the end, the child was gone, and I was nearly dead too. This life, I protect myself. It is coming out. It is coming out, the midwife cried with joy. It is a little young lord. When the child's loud cry rang out, my whole body relaxed, almost collapsing from exhaustion. The old consort came personally, blood test for kinship. I was already prepared. In that bowl of water, I had already smeared alum, a method a traveling doctor told me in my past life. When alum dissolves in water, any blood can merge. Shaolinyuan's blood was taken from the old clothes he wore when he died. 2 drops of blood entered the water and slowly merged. The old consort wept with aged tears. It is Linyuan's child, the bloodline of the Shao family. 2 drops of blood entered the water and slowly merged. Consort, I asked softly. The child's name, according to the genealogy. This generation follows the character, Cheng. So his name shall be Sai. The old consort held the child and said to me with a smile, Xiao Chengxi, to inherit the family legacy and continue the lineage. Once the child's full moon celebration is over, I will petition the court to formally request your title as Princess Jing, and Chengxi as the heir of Prince Jing. Xiao Chengxi, what a wonderful name, I nodded weakly. Thank you, Grand Consort. At the child's full moon banquet, the hall was filled with guests. Consort Zhou sent generous gifts from the palace, with a letter saying she had already spoken well of me before the emperor. The emperor personally bestowed a plaque inscribed with chaste and virtuous. The whole capital knew that the princess of Prince Jing's manor, born a peasant girl, had gained the favor of Consort Zhou from the palace. After the banquet ended, I went to the ancestral hall alone. Shaolinyuan's memorial tablet stood in the center, candlelight flickering. I gazed for a long time, then said softly, Shaolinyuan, what you owed me has been paid off. As I turned, my skirt hem swept across the threshold. The sunlight outside was just right. Me son, my manor, my life. From now on, no one will dare to bully or humiliate me. At 5 years old, Chengxi's features already bore a 70% resemblance to Shaolinyuan. The clan relatives remarked with emotion that he would surely accomplish great things like Shaolinyuan in the future. I just smiled and said nothing. One lie requires countless lies to cover it up, so naturally I couldn't let anyone catch me slipping. After my rebirth to half a year ago, I began laying out my plans. Calculating the timing, I found Shaolinyuan's illegitimate younger brother Shaolinfeng on the 16th of the 12th lunar month. In my previous life, I never saw him. I only knew he had plotted to harm Shaolinyuan and was imprisoned in the manor, never to be released in this lifetime. I heard the brothers looked 70% alike. He was the one with me on the night of the 16th of the 12th lunar month. He really was a madman. He cooperated readily after hearing my plan. Having his child become the heir was naturally a profitable deal for him. Afterward, I left him enough silver, if he ever tried to threaten me with this matter. Once I successfully became the Princess of Jing, killing him would be easy. Now, looking at Chengxi's profile that was exactly like that man's, I lowered my eyes and sipped my tea. Chengxi was practicing swordsmanship in the courtyard. Consort Zhou had been promoted to noble Consort Zhou, the most favored in the entire harem. She often summoned me into the palace to chat, praising the Princess of Jing as chaste and virtuous to everyone she met. With this backing, no one dared to look down on me, mother. Chengxi ran over. Try the pastries noble Consort Zhou sent. I took the pastries and patted his head. Mother, why is noble Consort Zhou so good to us? I paused for a moment and smiled. because Mother helped noble consort Jo when she was at her most difficult time. Sending charcoal in the snow is more memorable than adding flowers to brocade. This was the greatest support I gained in this life, in exchange for the memories of my previous life.